Yes, sir, all the way in the back.
What about live bait in Bimini?
Live bait in Bimini. Generally speaking, we cast net pilchards in the residential canals on the north end of South Bimini, or right along the beach in the surf. Once in a while we catch them on the east side of the end of South Bimini, at the south end of Bimini. That's our mainstay bait over there, is catching pilchards. If we want goggle eyes, you can catch them on the outgoing tide, especially at the north of the big game club. In the daytime, you can frequently find a black ball of goggle eyes between the Chalks seaplane ramp and the south end of North Bimini, along that side of the island. And if anytime the bait's hard to get in Bimini, truthfully, the go-to bait for fishing on the reef over there, better than goggle eyes, is yellowtails. And you anchor on a reef in 20 to 50 feet of water and catch all the yellowtails you want. And if you go up on the east side of the island on any grass bottom and anchor up in chum, you usually catch all the ballyhoo you want. So bait's pretty easy to get over there, but it centers around yellowtails and pilchards for bait. Yes, sir?
You were talking about goggle eyes in Rex 125 to 250. How are they marking on your? You mark them at all or no?
Well, generally speaking, there'll be a cloud very near the bottom when you first find them. Okay. And then as you catch them, the cloud will come up toward the surface. And as long as you're drifting, and it's a very good application for a big sea anchor, and use that to control your drift so you drift slower.
So you'll come over them and you'll see them off the bottom in a big ball.
Generally speaking, you go to one of the artificial reefs and you work on top of it or to the south of it into the current, and you'll find a ball of fish marking down very near the bottom.
Okay.
And then just work them up to the boat. Pretty easy to catch that way. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Where's the question at? Yes, sir. Ballyhoo will bite a sabiki rig, but boy, what a mess you'll have. A number 10 long shank black hook, 18 inches below a bobber with a very small split shot halfway in between, and baited with live shrimp, is usually the easiest way to catch ballyhoo to fish with.
Live shrimp?
No, well, live shrimp cut up is the best shrimp, yes. Okay. But you can use frozen shrimp, it'll work plenty good.
Just put bits of it on.
We didn't really get into the cast net too much, but remember, if you're in Broward County, that your cast net can only be 7 feet in diameter. That means if you pick it up by the ring and hold it up, it can only be 7 feet from the ring to the ground. This one here is only about 4 or 5 feet. You can frequently chum ballyhoo right up behind the boat. And if the skies are like they were today without a cloud in the sky, casting them is virtually impossible. But if there's clouds around, anytime a cloud goes overhead, they're relatively easy to catch. So you can cast net ballyhoo, but they won't live as well as the ones that you hooked. Same thing with herring. A lot of times if the water's dirty, you can cast net the herring in your chum when you're in an area with herring. But again, the herring don't live very good when they're casting it either. You take a bait and it'll last you all day caught on sabiki rigs in the last 2 or 3 hours when you cast net it. So generally speaking, these baits are better caught on hooks. Pilchards, when they're in large schools, you throw the net, fill the live well, and go fishing and chum with them and everything else. But remember, in Broward County, it has to be under 7 feet. And when you're picking a cast net, if you're going for big pilchards, you want what's called a 1-inch stretch. If you're going for small pilchards and ballyhoo, you want a 3/4 inch stretch. There's 2 ways to measure cast nets. Stretch means that we stretch the net out and we measure that from 1 knot, skip a knot, which is the halfway down. Every other knot is how it's measured for stretch. The other way you measure a cast net is the length of each side, and that's called bar. You measure, it's 3/4 inch stretch is 3/8 bar. 1 inch stretch is 1/2 inch bar. And you have to make sure when you buy a net that you know that you're buying 1 inch stretch or 3/4 inch stretch, depending on what you're going to do with it. If you're going for mullet, or giant pilchards, you might even go to 1.25 inch stretch. But that's how you purchase cast nets, and they do have a place in acquiring bait. But being as how we're in Fort Lauderdale, and if you get caught with a net over 7 feet on your boat in Fort Lauderdale, they're allowed to confiscate it or cut it in half or something. You want to be careful what you have for cast nets. Yes, sir, all the way in the back.
Yeah, back to ballyhoo real quick. I might have missed this, but typically what kind of water conditions are you going to find them in?
Live bottom, anywhere from 12 to 15 feet of water with a rock or a grass bottom, out to 50 or 60 feet of water with a rock bottom. And you anchor up and you chum for them. And if you're trying to pick a spot, usually if you have somebody stand up near the bow of the boat, you may actually see them darting through the water, or if they start to run away from the boat, or you see them being chased by predators, it's pretty easy to pick out a place to find them. And once you locate them once or twice, you usually have a few spots and they're usually there. But in Broward County, most of the time you can pretty much take to the bank that 100 yards from a fishing pier, there's going to be ballyhoo. And almost any place that there's anchor balls, there's going to be ballyhoo. So, yes, sir.
A question about the hooks on the ballyhoo. I tried that with a little short shank gold hook, and I just cast it out with a light spinner, and they would avoid the hook like it was the plague. Do you use black color hook?
Yeah, we use a black long shank most of the time when we're targeting ballyhoo for two reasons. They don't see it as well, and by the way, we've had them eat plain gold hooks because they saw them and they look like little shrimp. So you had a bad day, and other days they eat anything in sight. But we use a long shank so that they're easier to unhook. And they do tend to suck the bait in pretty good.
I heard you speaking about a hair hook. And
well, a hair hook is like a number 20 black long shank, and we like a number 10.
Number 10.
We don't want too small a hook.
Yeah. Cool.
Yes, sir.
A bait not that frequent, we use mahara or using it for snook and carping. Do you ever fish a mahara offshore?
When you put a gun to my head and I'm really, really desperate, the one day of the year that Stephanie found out I was going to go home, I might use the mahara for anything. There are very good tarpon snook bait. Everything will eat them, but they have a lifespan on a hook of about 10 or 15 minutes. They just don't have the stamina of the other fish. Anybody else have a yes, sir?
You mentioned the 3/0 Daiichi circle hook. What do you usually use for your leader? How many pound leader for?
Our standard setup on our boat is approximately a 15-foot, 50 or 60 pound monofilament leader, not fluorocarbon. And then an 80-pound Spro swivel, 9 or 10 inches of number 4 wire, and a 3/0 circle hook. On the kite we use typically 60-pound leaders. On the flatlines we use typically 50-pound leaders. We always use number 4 wire, and we always use a 3/0 Daiichi in our standard live baiting. We use a lot of bridles. There's several different ways we bridle. Since we learned about the jerry clip, we've been using the jerry clips a lot. And if anybody really wants to know, I buy my jerry clips for 80 cents a piece. And I mean, I got about 6 of them for free. So I'm impressed enough of them that I'm paying for them. And I'm mad at Al for that, but that's another story. But they are that good that I'm buying them.